The Cold Omaha Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to Procedurally Generated. I'm Henry Bell, and joining me today is Braondon Bowling. There's a fair amount of news this week, and we played a couple of games as well. We're going to be covering For Honor's rage-quitting problem, the amazing Breath of the Wild 2D fan project, a mysterious object that's been discovered in Elite Dangerous, and more later in the show. But first, I want to get things started with what we've been playing this week. Braondon, how's it going? Played anything good?
I'm doing well. I've actually just been waiting for Dawn of War 3 to come out, so I've literally just been studying up on the lore and then playing a little bit of Titanfall 2.
I hear that. Oh, that's awesome. Well, do you want to talk about Titanfall 2 a little bit? I heard there were some new updates to the game, actually.
I jumped in, I think, late last week, like Friday night, Saturday, and they had unleashed a while ago a new multiplayer match that I think is called Skirmish. It's pilots versus pilots, but it's not in the traditional maps. Like, remember how in Titanfall you could do pilots versus pilots on all the standard maps that you would do like attrition and capture the flag on?
Yeah, and it was a little annoying because everything was so spread out.
Yeah, so this one is basically pilots versus pilots on new, like, super compressed maps.
So it's like a normal games deathmatch mode, kind of?
Yeah, but it's very tightly packed. Yeah.
Oh, even tighter than a normal map? For
yeah,
like Call of Duty or something like that? Is it like Nuketown sized or smaller?
Say it one more time?
Is it like Nuketown sized or smaller?
A little smaller.
You know the Call of Duty map, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know that one.
Even smaller? Wow, cool.
Just a little bit
That's interesting.
smaller.
I kind of like that. I mean...
Yeah, so it's weird because the map size, its surface area, the raw surface area on the ground is about Nuketown or a little bit smaller, but it's verticality.
Oh.
So they're pushing together the teams so that you basically have to fight, and it's super interesting. I think that I played like 2 matches. I didn't get much of it in, but I stopped playing almost immediately simply because it's way more fast paced, simply because it's tighter. So you're just going to run into enemies, or they're going to run into you. You don't have to move to get attacked in that game.
That's hilarious.
Nuts. And also, like, still the server issues.
I was going to ask, how was the matchmaking?
When it first came out, I heard it was pretty solid, but it took me about 10-15 minutes to get into each match, which is why I probably got out of it. Jesus
Christ, that's insanity. Yeah, I mean, I know it was good at the beginning because I was playing it at launch, but 2 weeks after it came out, like, the player base had dropped off so hard and the matchmaking was so poorly optimized that, like, I remember logging in, not getting a match for 10 minutes and just saying screw it and exiting.
Yeah, because everybody typically, everybody up until this point was kind of stuck in either Coliseum mode, which they kind of burned through, and then they were just doing attrition. Everybody was just in attrition.
I just wanted to do hard point.
Yeah, people just gravitated to the kind of the all-in-one.
They gravitated towards the types of game modes that are the least unique for this game, which drives me insane. Like, I don't know. I like the Titan-based modes more, and I like the non-traditional death, like the stuff that's not just a death match, a lot more. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, but they added in a couple of new guns. They're more rehashes with subtle changes. There was a gun they put in there. I think it was a assault rifle that they put in. Mm-hmm. That was like the class or the class before the other one. I don't remember the name because it's a bunch of numbers.
Sure.
That effectively is the exact same gun as the earlier version, and I think it has subtle aiming stats that you don't see. It's something you have to play to notice. And then they did a bunch of new Prime skins for the Titans that also include different executions.
Oh, that's kind of neat. Now, but those all cost money, right?
Yeah, those cost money. And I'm really not about to buy a Titan. They look cool. Like, I'm very tempted to just, like, splurge on a Titan skin just because. But
it sucks because it's like, I would like to get some cool custom Titan skins too, but if I'm never going to have anybody see them but me, what's the point?
Yeah, it's weird because there's a base for the multiplayer. They just all tend to focus on one game mode, at least from where we are experiencing it. Because the game still has from what I'm seeing, still has a healthy game base. People are still streaming.
The
like
matchmaking
crazy.
is bad. Is my thing. It's like I can create a lobby with half of the game filled out, and then I'll sit waiting in the queue for 10 minutes, and I'm like, I don't believe out of the tens of thousands of people playing this game that literally 99.9% are only queuing for one mode. I don't believe that. I think that people try to queue for different modes, and when they don't get them, they go to the one that works. You know what I mean? And
that's what I typically do.
Should be able to get into a match, though, still. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but coming off of, like, Battlegrounds, where I consider it a long matchmaking process for it takes maybe 30 seconds max from when you hit find match to when you load into the lobby, and then a minute until you are on the plane in the match. Like, that is, to me, I even find that a bit long. So, like, 15 minutes is so unacceptable. I ain't got time to wait 15 minutes for a match to start.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what they do. That's what I do. If I don't get anything in 5 minutes, I'm just going to go to attrition if I'm going to play online.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not even going to bother having it take up real estate on my hard drive if it's going to be that kind of game, honestly, because Titanfall was already kind of the sort of game that I played when I was in the mood for it or, like, on a whim, and it's just not worth having on the hard drive when 90% of the time that I've personally tried getting in, I've had such issues with the matchmaking. I'm kind of bummed. I was hoping that this new mode was going to maybe address some of those issues, or at least, like, make it so you wouldn't have to wait 15 minutes to get into the new mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was popping with the pattern I'm seeing right now is just that when they release the new mode, everybody's excited, and then after a week, it kind of peters back into the same system over and over again. Yeah. People just really tend to stick to attrition.
Sure.
Because I get into those matches real quick.
Sure. Well,
it's everything else that takes its sweet time.
Speaking of new modes, did you say there's another one coming down the pipe too?
Yeah, I don't know the details on it yet. There were a couple of spoilers on Reddit, but it's not officially released yet by the team that made the team that made the game yet. And There was also a new Titan coming in as well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so they did allude to that as well.
That's cool.
Maybe allusion might be a little bit of a more obtuse term. They did say there's a new Titan coming soon. Prepare yourself.
Well, that's nice.
But yeah, still fun. I still mainly go back in for the story because the story is so fun. Because I can replay missions with different Titan loadouts, which is always fun. Kind of changes it around a little bit for me.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and the single player is worth replaying. That is the thing that I have done. I've replayed through it. I got like a couple missions in again about a month ago, and it's like, okay, well, at least see that's why I'm so glad they put a single player in Titanfall 2 because now it's all I got.
Yeah, but it's still like worth it.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Nice.
Yeah. That's not a slight on the single player campaign. I'm saying the single player campaign on its own makes me not regret the purchase. It's just a bummer that the multiplayer is so bad. At least in my opinion.
It's truly a shame, but I'm glad they learned their lesson after the first Titanfall. They got real lucky with that one because that was a new IP and people were really, really not feeling the fact that it was only multiplayer. But since it was so well polished, people kind of stuck with it to an extreme.
Yeah, definitely. Well, cool. I'm glad that you're still having fun with it. Hopefully, when that new mode is officially announced, we can get some coverage and you can check it out for us.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm keeping it on the disc simply because I enjoy the game so damn much.
Sure, fair enough. And hey, if I had as much disk space as you do, maybe I would be doing the same.
Yeah, all my 4 terabytes.
Exactly. Well, I played some games this week too, although really it was kind of brief and few and far between because like you said, there's a ton of releases that are coming out this week that I'm looking forward to. Personally, I'm currently downloading Dawn of War 3 like you, and I just got RimWorld, which I really want to play but haven't had the time yet. And then, Mario Kart comes out tomorrow, I believe, and I'm definitely going to be getting that for the Switch. It's just been oh my god, everything I want is 3 days away.
Yeah, Little Nightmares, I think just released for actual play. It released as we were starting, so I'm like, oh well.
Right? I'm still salty that Dawn of War 3 didn't unlock till 7 a.m. Pacific time today. What kind of horse shit is that?
The weirdest thing? This was an
makes
odd
me so
launch
mad.
for a couple of games.
It makes me so
because the only one
mad.
that had a traditional launch was Sniper 3, and that game is kind of eh. Anyway, because
if you're gonna release a game on a weekday anyways, release at a time that people can play it.
Yeah, 10 or 11 o'clock.
I don't understand the logic of the 7 a.m. launch.
Yeah, I would say if you're gonna do it during the week, do it on a Tuesday or do it any day of the week. Just do it like at 12 o'clock Pacific time.
Yeah, so that I can get it at 10.
Exactly.
But yeah, anyways, speaking of horror games that are just coming out, I did play about half an hour or so, I'd say, of Outlast 2. I just put the first episode up on my channel if you guys are interested in seeing maybe a little bit more of a mature take on a horror game. Don't get me wrong, you'll still see some jump scares and all that and me reacting, but no overacting, more appreciation for the genre. I have to say,
what you call overacting would just be me.
Yeah, but I think
with horror games very well.
I think you and everyone else knows what I'm talking about when I say overacting. Let's put it this way. I was trying to think of inspiration for different titles and stuff, and every single title I saw on YouTube was in all caps and featured a face cam of someone doing a ridiculously over-exaggerated scream.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you're looking for something a little different and would still like to check out Outlast, you can always check it out on my channel, lesser.noob, N00B on YouTube, or just search Henry Plays Outlast. But I'm having a lot of fun with it. It looks fantastic. I really, really think the presentation is top-notch. There's been a couple of quick moments at the beginning of the game that have already caught me off guard and startled me pretty badly. But I think the thing this has going for it the best that a lot of modern games have missed on, except Resident Evil 7 kind of brought this back in a little bit, is it's not just jump scary, it's psychologically scary. Which is so rare in horror video games, in my opinion. I think they don't even bother to try to actually genuinely scare you in most horror games, which drives me crazy. Whereas in this, my first episode is called A Disturbing Letter, and that's because in the first 10 minutes or so of the game, you walk into this abandoned... So just really quick setting, sorry. The game is set in Arizona, or New Mexico, I think it's Arizona, where you're in this way out rural in the middle of nowhere desert town where there's a bunch of Hills Have Eyes style apocalypse, the end is nigh style cult townspeople are all living. And you're going there to report on a news story about a woman who was killed by a lethal dose of mercury injection. And something a fetus, which is terrifying. They don't actually go into any detail. They're just and the fetus. And I'm like, Jesus, what? But, They
have a habit of doing that. The Whistleblower DLC from the first one was particularly disturbing in that facet.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. They don't tell you what is actually scary about that, which is almost scarier. And what it is you're a husband and wife team who are going to report on this murder. You're taking a helicopter into this rural area, and out of nowhere, the helicopter gets knocked out of the air. It just, the engines just stop, some sort of EMP or something, I'm guessing. And then you crash, your wife goes missing, and you find the pilot barbed wire wrapped to a tree, flayed alive, and disemboweled.
Yeah, has an Outlasty vibe to it.
It's pretty fucked up. It's pretty crazy. And so I stumble into this house and happen upon a letter where this extremely dogmatic cultist woman is looking for some quality time to spend with a man to try to kill the Antichrist she thinks she's pregnant with. It's really scary, you guys.
There's a lot of things happening.
This game is really, it's got psychological thriller stuff going. It's got some really cool writing. I really like the allegories that they draw. I think visually it's very striking. And similar to the same, really, as the first Outlast, you have a video camera. It's a first-person shooter, but only as a pun. You don't use guns in this game, but you got a video camera, which you can use for a variety of things. It's your flashlight. You can turn on night vision mode with it. It is the ability to zoom in and out, and I don't think they did this in the first Outlast. You actually use it to shoot video in this. There's certain key locations that you can shoot video at, where you basically just hold the camera on it for a certain amount of time, and it will add it to an a video diary that you can go back and look at and get additional detail on certain key areas, which is pretty cool, I think. I think that's a great way to roll the camera into the gameplay some more. Also, it hasn't been explained yet, but I stumbled onto the fact that you can also turn on some sort of directional mic. So I'm guessing there's going to be certain points where you need to follow sounds and stuff like that, which I think is pretty cool. And just overall, the presentation is top notch. It's definitely going to be one of the better horror games this year, I would say, even just having played 30 minutes of it. I'm really looking forward to continuing my Let's Play. honestly. Like it's I'll be talking about it definitely next week once I've put some more hours in, but yeah, this is the kind of horror game that I wait for. When you actually think out your horror mechanics, because in Outlast 1 you could hide in a closet from the monster. Cool. In Outlast 2 you can hide in the closet from the monster, slowly peek out the door, and then you can use the lean, like Q or E, how in certain first-person shooters you can kind of like lean around corners.
Yeah, Wolfenstein style.
If you do that while you're like slowly opening like a door or a cabinet door, you can actually crane your neck out around the side of the door to see what's outside, which is like super immersive, super scary, and really, really well done. Like, I really am impressed with how they put together some of the
they've
mechanics.
always been good with that. Because you can open a door quietly, you can open it loudly. That's all super good.
In this, they've just done some quality of life improvements to make it smoother, and like you can do better peeking and stuff like that. It's like more integrated, so there's additional ways to peek when you have a door in hand and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. Man, because it reminds me, did they do that in Resident Evil 7?
I don't... yeah, they did. You could slowly open a door in Resident Evil 7, but I don't think you could peek around it. Because when I say peek, you're not just leaning like in a normal first-person game. You actually stick your head out the door and look past it so you can see outside. So it's like... It's more than just what you would traditionally expect. Anyways, I don't want to get too hung up on the peeking mechanic, even though it is something I really enjoy. Overall, though, very solid. It's a $30 title, so like... If you're even remotely interested in horror, I would really recommend it, even just from my first impressions of the first level. But like I said, I'll give more detail once I put some more hours in. I don't want to go on too long about it, since we'll certainly be talking about it next week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't wait to hear more about it. I might watch it. I'm just not good with horror.
Well, that's part of the fun of, I think, watching horror on YouTube. If it's not your thing to play horror games... It is mine, so let me. Just really quick before I move on to the next game, I just want to say, I've always felt this way, and I hope that other people do too. I feel like horror is a genre that's uniquely suited to video games, because video games are, by their very nature, immersive, and in my opinion, more immersive than most film. Like, when I'm immersed in a film, I forget about the world around me. When I'm immersed in a video game, I feel like I'm the character in the video game. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And because I'm in basically a character in a horror movie, I can look behind the door. I can not go in that room. I can decide to just run. Like, I can do the logical stuff that movie characters don't do. I can not split up the group for no reason. You know what I mean? Like, ignore all those horror movie tropes. I get it. I'm gonna live. I really like having that input. And I also think it's much more visceral. Like, you do get truly scared. Like, half the time that I'm startled in a horror movie from a jump scare, it's because I wasn't really paying that close of attention. When I get startled by a jump scare in a video game, it's because I was looking at the screen super close, like probably trying to read something or something, and like something came at me, Like it scared me because, not because I wasn't paying attention or expecting it, but because it was genuinely startling, Yeah,
that's the thing that got me about Dead Space. They did a good job in that game because it was just like no area is safe. Mm-hmm. Most horror games typically have safe zones, usually in the safe areas. Even Resident Evil has a location similar to that where you have the tapes cassette where you can save. Mm-hmm. Dead Space did not have that option. Like, I remember there was 3 experiences in that game that were just scared the absolute hell out of me. The first one was when I was in like one of the container areas where they were holding fuel, and I was just walking on this causeway, and I was like, I'm gonna do some inventory management. And you're in like the fuel area.
Famous last words.
Yeah, because everything in the game, with the exception of like the quit menu or the settings menu, is in game. So your inventory management is like generating throughout the game, so you can move around while doing it and everything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the whole thing with that is that like your menus in the HUD are all like actual parts of your suit that are projected in front of you, right?
Yeah. So I'm playing this game, and I'm doing my inventory management, and I just hear like dripping sounds, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense because I'm in like a area. It's like it's like a engineering area, and the ship's not being well maintained because it's clearly had a moment.
Sure.
And I'm like, just hear it. It's a little louder.
Maybe it's just like a leaking pipe.
Yeah, exactly. Because things have damaged. And I'm like, what the hell is that sound? I turn around, and it's just one of those necromorphs. I'm like, oh, God. The second time that got me was I was actually at an upgrade bench, upgrading my weapon. And there's like a small like animation where you're walking up to the bench and doing your thing.
Yep.
And I get my thing upgraded, everything is all good. And then I walk out of the bench, and as the animation is playing with me getting out of the bench, the necromorph's coming up. And this is not like a glitch. This is
just like, no.
It's not scripted.
That's great.
The third one was the best, though.
All right.
I saved the game and go do some other things. And a week and a half later, I come back and play the game. And the animation of you coming out of the save menu into the game was a necromorph just ready to just whoop my ass. I'm just like, oh my god, you need to stop.
That's great. Thank goodness you weren't playing a game where you couldn't take a couple hits.
It's all about having just having good scares, but also making an environment that is unsettling.
Yes, exactly.
That makes you not feel at ease.
And that actually, go ahead.
Yeah, because Doom 3 was the first time I noticed it, where I think the 9th or 10th level, the first half of the level was literally just you traversing the level, and there were no enemies.
Yeah, Doom 3 was the first horror, the only really horror take on the Doom series. The rest were just heavy metal action.
Exactly, and that game nailed it. Very much to a point where that's
a controversial opinion. I both agree and disagree, but that's a conversation for another time. Really quick, though, bringing it back to Outlast, one thing I wanted to touch on was also, you were reminding me this when you were talking about Dead Space, is the ambience in this game is really good, and that is made up of a couple different facets. I'd say a big one is obviously the presentation. They did a really good job with the setting. It is really disturbing being in this dusty desert town where it's after dark and there's nobody's home anywhere, and it's just a spooky, empty, lonely setting, which is great. But then coupled with that is what I think is some fantastic audio. I really like the sound effects and stuff that they've used. They have really solid horror movie style music that will play, not just stings, but think I guess I can't really think of a fantastic example off the top of my head, but just think quiet piano music that's slowly building with a bass coming in louder and louder type stuff, and you definitely can tell what if you're not looking the right way, the music will cue you in that you need to look around. And then on top of that, the sound effects are really good too. I've been startled just by I open a window and I hear it squeak because it's one of those pulley windows, and I get startled by the squeaking, and it's just it feels very genuine, which I appreciate. On top of that, I've already been rewarded a couple times for noticing little sound effects like footsteps, because you can catch glimpses of silhouettes walking into the corn and stuff like that. I actually caught one guy completely flat-footed in my video, but I'll let you guys check that out for yourselves if you're curious. But it's great, especially coming out of Battlegrounds, where I've been training myself to pay super close attention to sound effects and footsteps in particular. The second I hear footsteps, I start panicking and looking around everywhere, just like I would in Battlegrounds. I'm extra scared that it's going to be some kind of crazy pitchfork-wielding, cultist.
Exactly.
But yeah, so far, really enjoying it. It's $30 on Steam. If you're even intrigued by this, it's probably worth checking out. More on that next week, though. I did play 2 other games this week that I just wanted to touch on really briefly because I didn't play much of them. One thing that I did do, though, that we talked about last week is I got in on that Heroes of the Storm Champion Bundle deal, where if you guys, I think it's in this next week, if anybody logs into Heroes of the Storm, even if you don't have an account, you can just make one and log in. They give you
Blizzard?
Yes, Blizzard. They will give you 100 gems, which you can spend on one of 4 different hero bundles. They have these mega bundles, and you can only get 1 mega bundle ever per account. But for only 100 gems, you can get 20 heroes divided up by role. So basically, you'll have assassins in one role, flexible classes in a role, tanks and bruisers in a role, spellcasters and support. So it's those are the 4 bundles. I went with assassins because they're worth the most. If you do the math, unlocking different heroes takes different amounts of gold, and technically I got the most possible value by going with assassins, but it may, your mileage may vary depending on what heroes you have unlocked. That said, it genuinely is 20 free champions, so might as well grab it, even if you're not a player, because you never know if the game's going to get patched 5 years from now and you want to jump in and have 20 champions unlocked. It's $300 value.
Yeah, because it is a MOBA, right?
Yeah, it's okay. Really quick for those who may not be up to date on Heroes. Heroes of the Storm is the Blizzard style, much more casual MOBA. Think League of Legends or Defense of the Ancients, and it's meant to be much more user friendly. It doesn't have like item shops and all that kind of stuff that really complicate things. It's just a very streamlined, approachable MOBA. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan. It's not my favorite. I think I prefer League, but it is a very solid one and a great one for younger people or people who may be turned off by the toxicity of other MOBAs to jump into and check out. Also, it's totally free, so, well, except for the champions and stuff, but you can unlock it through in-game stuff if you play it enough. So, yeah, I think it's pretty good. That said, cool. I probably am not going to be playing a ton of it anytime soon, just because there's plenty of other titles I really do want to play that have just come out. Another game that I've been playing recently, though, very briefly, but actually playing this at work with coworkers, is Street Fighter II Turbo. As I'm sure you guys may remember, a couple weeks ago I was talking about building a Raspberry Pi emulator and how I had a coworker who had done so. Just playing around with it, we found that the best Office game by far was Street Fighter II Turbo, which is great because I love Street Fighter II. I think Street Fighter, as you guys know, it has the best combo systems and stuff, and I just really like how your special inputs work. But yeah, I've been having a total blast just schooling random coworkers, getting schooled weirdly by my boss, and just playing it basically randomly throughout the day. Anytime two people happen to be walking past the kitchen, they just throw down. Pretty fun. Obviously not a whole lot to say about it, but I just thought that was a fun little anecdote and definitely a game that I've been playing this week. Fear Chun-Li's ridiculous kicks.
And how's the controls? Because it's on a mobile device. So.
Well, it's not really on a mobile device. It's on the Raspberry Pi, so it outputs HDMI directly to a television. But the input is fine. We used wireless Bluetooth controllers. Street Fighter, it's not as bad, but in other games with the emulator, with the Raspberry Pi emulator, latency is a bit of an issue over Bluetooth. Like, there's maybe a quarter-second delay, which makes playing, like, Mario, for example, very difficult. Mm-hmm. That said, you can just hardwire it to bypass that delay.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so anyway.
It sounds fun.
Yeah, it has been.
Those things so bad.
Yeah, and anytime that any random person in the office is like, oh, you remember that one old game? And then we figure out what game it was, we're just like, hey, let's go check it out, because it's going to be on there.
So you know what you got to do? At this point, you just need to come up with like a range. So whenever somebody asks for, remembers that old game, you got to do a time limit to see how long it takes for people to figure it out, and then do a metric survey afterwards just to see like, is it longer to start the game up, or is it longer to figure out what the hell you guys are trying to play?
See, the thing is, when I say they're trying to figure out what the name of the game is, what I mean is they come over to my desk and describe it to me, and I tell them what game it is. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and definitely a good way to just spice up the office. So yeah,
sounds like those old Best Buy commercials where they just like describe the music from in the CD section. And guys, oh yeah, I know what song you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the one that's like nah, nah, nah. Yeah, I remember those. Hilarious. Well, anyways, guys, since it's just Brandon and I, that's going to do it for what we've played this week. However, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere, because we will be right back with the news. And we're back. All right, so without any further ado, let's jump right into the news here. And first up, I want to talk about something that I thought was pretty cool. For those who are still out there playing Elite Dangerous, the kind of
space trucker simulator.
I was just going to say, yeah, sort of the outer space trucking sim. They find there's a new thing they've discovered out in the far reaches of space, specifically an abandoned space station / spaceship that apparently is full of mysterious data logs and recordings that you can listen through that kind of give the backstory of the ship, but also are hinting at maybe some ties to some greater story connections, which I think is really cool in a game that I think of as, again, a space trucking simulator, like the idea of having a grander scope and stuff. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not an Elite player myself. If I was going to play, I'd probably be doing it like with the full rig setup, but since don't want to invest that like $300, I haven't played it too much, but yeah, I think this is really cool. I like the idea of them actually patching stuff in like this. I really like how a lot of these games, like especially these big space games like this and EVE, are getting some really cool patches lately that are so far into their development.
Yeah, no, I'm super happy. Like, the game looks great. The content's not exactly my speed. It takes a long time to build in that game.
It's no red out.
Like, yeah, to flesh out, like, not only flesh out your character, but also flesh out the ships that you want.
Sure.
Like, it just gets to a point.
For sure, but something like this is intriguing even to someone like me, at least, who, like, I'm not really interested in just, like, the economy side of things, but I would be interested in, researching a mysterious ship that's got story tied to it and stuff. It just seems cool. If I owned the game and was going to jump back in, this would be a great impetus to do so,
Yeah, and I also don't like, they did do a bit of a split with their season pass, because there's like a lot of, like, landing on planets and stuff. I think was part of a season pass deal that they had, which I was kind of not too thrilled about.
Sure.
But this isn't the first time I've seen something like this. I think a couple of months ago, somebody actually discovered a new alien while he was exploring, which was super
cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I remember watching the video, and it was just like, it's like a flower blossoming in space, except it's made of, I guess, flesh.
Yeah, see, I feel like that's a big part of what, like, games like No Man's Sky were missing. Is, like, I want there to be some stuff that, like, is discoverable, that implies a greater world that I'm not privy to. Even if it's something that has no ties to an overarching story. Just some background noise, some color to the universe.
Yeah. So you got to have a good broth, man.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise your soup's going to be terrible.
Exactly.
Anyways, though, yeah, I just thought that was pretty cool. Wanted to highlight it for those EVE players who may have fallen out of the game but would be interested.
Elite players.
Yes,
who are probably now EVE players.
Sorry. I always do that. I mix the two up, but they are very different. So,
I'm
sorry.
pretty sure
Elite
that they either I feel like one owns the other.
Yeah, probably.
You play Elite Dangerous, you're probably playing some EVE as well. I feel like that's the perfect game to play when you're, like, training your pilot.
I was just going to say, cue a 1 week long training or skill training session and then just play Elite.
Yeah, I feel like, oh, yeah. Now I'm getting ideas.
There you go. Maximize, make it a little more efficient. Anyways, moving along, we had a pretty interesting story this week. This is not something you hear about all the time. So, the Old Bailey court in England jailed 20-year-old hacker Adam Mudd on this Tuesday of this week for being the creator of probably the most popular DDoS attack service on the internet. The name of the program, it was considered malware, obviously, is Titanium Stressor, which he developed when he was only 16 years old, and has now, in the intervening years, made over $400,000 in profit selling to basically anyone who would buy it. This is the DDoS service that was used to knock out a lot of really popular games. You guys may remember we covered outages about on Xbox Live, Minecraft, basically any new launch title. All kinds of stuff has been targeted by this, and so it's kind of nice to see some actual legal action taken against digital terrorism, basically. It's very nice. He's going to be jailed for 2 years. I assume that he's going to have to pay some kind of fine, considering how much profit he made. But yeah, they're saying that he himself initiated at least or almost 600 DDoS attacks.
Jesus.
So yeah, this guy's kind of a tool. Side note, unfortunately for stereotypes that are finally starting to die down, he was arrested in his parents' house where he lived. Even after having made almost $500,000, he did still live with his folks, which is, thanks a lot. Finally almost killed that stereotype guy.
I like how that last point was like the crux for everybody. Like, he was still living with his parents? I thought that was great. It was like, oh boy. So we're not going to talk about any of the actual things, but the fact that he was in the basement. Fair enough.
Yeah, well.
You win some, you lose some. That's just the way I look at it.
Exactly. I'm just glad to see that he is going to have to pay for this, because we see a lot of these digital, malware distributors and stuff who they never get tracked down. I feel like they don't get that seriously gone after, but it seems like digital attacks like this are finally being treated as what they are, which is basically digital terrorism, where you're knocking out a service, or at very least digital, I I don't really know what else to call it. It's an attack, And so it's nice to see that it's being taken seriously.
It is designed specifically to...
Well, it's not really designed to cause terror, per se. It's just to inconvenience people. But I don't know what you'd call it. Obstruction of internet traffic.
Yeah,
but,
I feel like that's fair.
But whatever it is, I'm glad to see that the courts are taking it more seriously nowadays. It's just a really nice change of pace. This is on the back of last week we saw two British kids arrested for swatting. The swatting that resulted in an American teen being shot in the face with rubber bullets and requiring reconstructive surgery. So It's just nice that these things are being taken more seriously. And interesting that we have 2 weeks of fairly high-profile stories out of England. I wonder if they are in particular cracking down right now.
It was about time.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm still thinking of a name for it. I'm thinking not grand theft, like grand internet interference.
I just don't even know, but it causes loss of profits and stuff, obviously. So it's
my thing at this point is I don't care about the official name. I just want to make it sound cool and make it sound like it's really bad.
Ultra hacking.
Internet engineering.
It's ultra hacking.
Super hyper mega hacking.
There you go. All right. Anyways, I thought that was a pretty interesting one. Next up, we have something that's more of just an awareness thing I thought you guys might find interesting. A developer has created a really cool web browser-based emulator for the first level of the original Tomb Raider. Yeah, weird, niche, not really news, but definitely something that's very cool. I'm going to butcher this name, but Timur Gagiev created the Open Lara project, which is a web browser-based, emulator of the first Tomb Raider and features all kinds of input controls, which is pretty impressive. It'll take controller mapping, or it does a, Xbox-style controller. It'll take, or a PlayStation controller. It'll take keyboard and mouse, and even I ran it on mobile and it does touch.
Yeah,
which is pretty hilarious.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like it is kind of a niche thing, but if you're interested in seeing where games came from, especially the Tomb Raider series, this is definitely something to look at.
Yeah, and
because this was
runs
cutting
great
edge a while ago. I remember this is one of the first games that I started playing back when I was like 7 or 8 years old.
Definitely, and
back
I gotta
in '96.
say, definitely, and I gotta say, looking at Lara's model, 20 years later, I don't necessarily see the hypersexualization everyone's talking about. Maybe that came in the later games, but in this one, she looks pretty normal.
Well, it depends on because you see her from the front, you see her from the side.
Yeah, maybe in the profile it's more so.
Well, but then again, at the same time,
I just thought it was interesting. I don't want to get dragged down into it. I just wanted to make a quick passing comment.
I kind of fell in love with the animation style for this game because you could hang off of walls.
I like backflipping.
A lot of the platforming, and then you could do if you're hanging off a platform, you could do a back, like a ballerina, not a ballerina, but seriously
Gymnast?
awesome back lean onto the actual platform just by the strength of her arms, which showed dexterity and the fact that she was
Sure.
I train, bro.
Exactly. That's hilarious.
I can't even describe how she does it. It looks like not ballerina but power lifter, those things you see in the Olympics with the bars that they hold and they do all the flips and stuff.
Right.
It's super cool stuff. This is one of the games that got me into video games, so I'm kind of happy to see it.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't. Just search for Open Lara, Lara, if you don't know how to spell Lara Croft. But just search for that on Google, and it's just one click away. Next up, we've got kind of a weird one. Some news from Splatoon. So you guys may remember we covered this a year ago or whatever when they were just finishing up the events that they were doing for the first Splatoon. And the last event that they did was Splatfest, wherein a bunch of players they got divided up into teams and then had to vote for one of two squid divas, I guess? Squid
idols.
Pop stars? Idols? I'm not totally sure what they are, but they chose between these two squid girls, and apparently the one that they chose is going to affect the story in Splatoon 2, which is pretty hilarious. I guess reading into it, it sounds like there's been a bit of a rift caused because the two people you were voting on were sisters. And so there may be some animosity between them now based off of that global event, which is kind of cool. I like that. I thought that was a neat way to roll stuff in from the previous game, especially emergent stuff like an event.
Yeah, and the fact that they brung it out after a year and people really weren't expecting it to actually matter, which is super interesting as well.
Exactly. I mean, it was almost a joke when people, teamed off choosing which one they preferred. It was very reminiscent of like the Twilight, Team Jacob or Team Edward stuff that went on years back. But I just thought this was pretty hilarious. If you want more detail, you can check out the prologue that they uploaded to the official Splatoon site. But hope we see more of this going forward. I definitely like community interaction affecting, future development of games like that.
So I feel like you could call it the best ARG? Where the community's interacting with the game.
Yes,
kind of like what they
exactly.
did with Sombra, except not so drawn out.
Yeah, or like they did with Ingress and they didn't do with Pokemon Go, where like those locations, the Pokestops are all determined by, those were all player created. And then when Pokemon Go came out, they were like, okay, no more player input. Exactly. That's a great example, actually. Anyways, though, just wanted to let you guys know because I thought it was kind of cool. Next up, we have some news about Resident Evil 7's final free DLC. It has been delayed, and interestingly enough, rather than just putting out an announcement, Capcom actually came out and had the lead developers, the director of the game, as well as the lead producer, come out and explain why they were delaying it. And it's actually pretty cool. I really appreciate what they're saying. Basically, they say the reception and expectation the reception of Resident Evil 7 was so good that it's created an expectation among fans that the DLC will be of similar quality. And basically what they're saying is, we finished the DLC, we looked at it, and we said, this does not stack up, we can do better. And so they're delaying it literally because they don't feel like it's basically up to snuff with the rest of the game, which I think is actually really cool and genuine, and I really appreciate them doing it in this vlog style, because it makes it feel a lot more sincere.
Yeah, well, the number one rule is, you can delay a game, just let us know and give us a reason why, and we'll most likely say, all right, because we want to play a really good game. We love games, but we also love games that are, polished and up to a standard that, that a bar, if a bar has been set, we want it to maintain that bar.
Definitely, and what's coolest about it is that, this is a free DLC. I mean, they could have just pushed anything out the door, and we can't really complain. It's free.
Yeah, gotta give them kudos.
This isn't
that.
Season Pass. This isn't paid, It's not like they're worried that sales will be too low. Everybody's going to get it. So it's just really cool to see that they want to put that extra polish in when it's basically just money out of their pocket.
Yeah, because they got to probably release it, and we would have been satisfied because we would have had the old mantra, it was free, and it's still pretty good. Exactly.
Although it's worth noting, the other DLCs are pretty great, so I could see there being an expectation. For those who don't know, they have a pretty well-developed kind of spin-off of poker that you can play that's a lot of fun. And they also did a really cool think Call of Duty Zombies style survival map, which is really cool, where you can get parts, upgrade guns, get different perks, all kinds of stuff. And then they also did a third one where it's like a joke one, and it's Jack's birthday, where you sprint through the abandoned house and collect different ingredients to make him food to feed him on his birthday. Which is also, it's hilarious and well done and goofy, and there are, what are the zombies called in that? They're like the, I can't remember.
Sorry, I'm
husks or something. It's like husks or something like that. Yeah, but they have party hats and stuff on them, and when you get headshots on them, confetti shoots out. It's pretty great.
That's worth it.
So, yeah, I think that there has been a surprisingly good quality of them so far, and it's funny, too, because all of them have had descriptions and stuff that have led me to have kind of low expectations, and I'm always surprised. So, I'm happy to hear they're going to try to...
I love being pleasantly surprised with games.
Exactly, and it's nice to see them saying they want to continue that same high quality. I think that's great. Next up, we have some For Honor news/story. This is actually kind of funny. I got this from a Kotaku article by Cecilia, I'm going to butcher this too, D'Anastasio. Excuse me, sorry. It's a hard name to say. But this is a really good article looking into one of the top ranked For Honor players named Cosmic Swordsman, who has a kill-death ratio of, 400 or something like that. He has on record...
He died
He has on record 5,384 kills and 4 deaths.
He's in the top 0.1% of players.
And it's worth noting that a death is not the same as a loss, because they're best of 3. He has 1 loss. How is that possible, you may ask? Well, let me tell you. It's not possible. Not without basically cheating, which is what allegedly this guy is doing. Nobody's caught him red-handed yet, but people are... there's first-hand accounts of people who have played against him, and as soon as the match starts going against him or he gets his first death, he just disconnects. Probably unplugs his router. And for some reason, For Honor does not have any kind of punishment for leaving games repeatedly, which is insane. He doesn't lose automatically but from a disconnect, which I do not understand. So he's got a ridiculously ridiculously high KDR, but he also is super loathed by the community because everyone basically calls him a cheater and says like he's a poor sport. I think the worst part of it is that the guy is, well, let's just say his response to the questions that have been levied at him is that I'm just very, very good. So I don't think he's doing himself any favors here either.
Yeah,
he sounds like kind of a
prick.
prick.
I'm just like, oh god. First of all, you're
like nobody buys that, fuck you.
Yeah, your screen name is something straight out of the '80s. Cosmic Swordsman.
All right, take it easy.
Number one.
No need for
Number two,
straw men here. This guy's got plenty of good reasons to dislike him.
Yeah, and then also his statement is just like, bruh, come on now.
Yeah, it just makes me like clench my fist. I'm just like, you fucking.
Yeah, I was like, come on, man. At least like come up with.
It's like such a troll response.
Give me an excuse. I can take a lame excuse.
Exactly. Like, don't say something that's clearly designed to just make me angrier.
Yeah, it's just like you just double down, bro. It's not what you're supposed to do. Like Ritter's gonna have a field day with this guy, I tell you.
Ridiculous. Anyways, though, I just thought that was funny, and I really wanted to highlight. I'm shocked that For Honor does not have any kind of anti-leaving system set up because we talked about how big of a deal that was in the competitive Street Fighter V scene when it was new, and the conclusion we kind of came to was. The conclusion they came to was it had to be fixed. And we've talked about how For Honor is basically a fighting game. So this is a fighting game that doesn't punish rage quitting, which is not smart.
Yeah, because aren't they still using that type of server style where, like, you're connecting to somebody else's?
Yeah, it's peer-to-peer, which almost every match I've played of that game at some point, the host is disconnected and they have to migrate because they're too cheap to get dedicated servers. It's probably part of the reason I'm not playing For Honor anymore. To be honest, I was kind of surprised when this came up in the news just because, like, I don't have any friends who are playing For Honor, and I'm not playing For Honor right now, so I didn't realize that people were still playing it so heavily.
Yeah, I'm glad I passed on that one.
Yeah, definitely a bit of just a flash in the pan there. Anyways, next up, this is pretty great. I wanted to talk about this really briefly. There's a new Zelda fan project that's in the works right now that you can check out already, and basically it is a demake of Breath of the Wild as a top-down traditional Zelda game. This was inspired by the video that Nintendo showed off to kind of give a concept for what their ideas were for how Breath of the Wild would work. They used this as like a mock-up when they were doing the development, and he was inspired by it and decided to make it into a full-on game. And apparently it's got some additional mechanics, which is pretty cool. It kind of plays on a lot of the open-world style stuff and having some new stuff that's not in a regular Zelda game. The example that the developer gave was, one of the original items in the game is a Byoki berry, which the game tells you is poisonous to humans, but if you drop one near some Octoroks, they'll basically be attracted to it and they won't attack anything else and it'll trap them. So, cool to see that he's trying to add some more open world-y elements to the game as well. I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
That said, what is it with Nintendo fans and making these doomed-to-fail projects? I mean, I love it. I get that they're a passionate bunch. Is it desperation for a title like what they're making? We've seen so many Zelda fan projects, and they always get shut down before they're released, or right after release. He has kind of come out in front of that, saying that if he does get a cease and desist from Nintendo, he plans on continuing to develop it as an individual IP. But honestly, that just gives me weird vibes. That almost makes me feel like it's like a marketing thing.
Yeah,
like
I don't really know.
The number of fan projects that have been canceled in the last year, we've talked about 6?
Yeah.
The
it's
Pokemon,
not going to go any. And I don't see them not changing that policy anytime soon.
Yeah, because there was, what was it, Pokemon Uranium, there was the Metroid 2 remake, there was, there was a ton of stuff this year. I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, more power to them if they're willing to put that amount of time into it, into something that's going to be largely scrapped, but especially because this is a particularly cool project that I'm even interested in. But it just is interesting to me, the level of dedication that you'd be willing to risk it all like that for relatively minor gains, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, that just goes to like just how much these people love Zelda.
Sure. It just reminds me, it just reminds me of, like, didn't we just talk about the Zelda Maker fan project, which is now being spun off and developed into its own standalone Zelda-esque Maker project because of a cease and desist? It just never ends. I'm glad that the fans don't lose faith, because they just keep trying.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess the best way to describe it is sometimes we're just suckers for punishment.
You know what I would like to see come out of it just once? Would be Nintendo going, here's a cease and desist. You are now hired as a developer.
See, yeah, I want them to do...
It feels like it's just the ham, or the carrot, or excuse me, just the stick and none of the carrot.
Yeah, nobody wants to get stuck that much.
What happened to being flattered? You know, at least be like, we really appreciate... Well, I guess they're pretty good about the corporate language where it's like, well, we appreciate interest in our products. Obviously, we must defend our copyrights type thing, but still, it's just... I don't know. I wish there was either a little more give by Nintendo or a little more sensibility by the fan makers, just because I would like to play some of these projects at completion, but it just seems like wasted development because I never actually get to download them.
Exactly. I want to see them do something like they did with Homeworld, where the guy was making a fan game for the prequel of the whole series, and that whole development studio
Deserts of Kazakh.
Yeah, they were just like, this looks pretty dank. All right, yeah, you're hired.
That's awesome.
Here's all of our assets.
See,
like, oh my God.
That's what it should be, in my opinion, but it is what it is. I mean, Nintendo's their private corporation. They can do business as they see fit. It's just sometimes a little distressing to see all of the projects that could have been.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Anyways, though, if you are interested, you can check out the current state of that development on the creator's website here, which I'm pulling up. Sorry, I closed the tab there. You can actually grab Breath of the NES on itch.io. So, yeah, check it out. I'm sure it's free. Next up, we have some interesting news that's kind of old news and kind of new news in a very interesting way. Redundancies. Modern Warfare Remastered is releasing its classic map pack, which was already released for PS4 users, but because of the dumbest thing ever, timed exclusive DLC, it's now coming to PC and Xbox One.
So Strike 1.
Yeah. Strike 2, these are no new maps, okay? And like they are from the original game, and they were already DLC in that game. They're charging $15 for them.
Okay, and that's Strike 2 and 3, depending on how angry you are.
I'm pretty mad. Strike 3 to me would be that if you own an NVIDIA card, you get it for free on PC anyway, so it's an extra fuck you to people who are having to pay $15 for it.
Oh Lord, this is ridiculous.
I mean, that's all the strikes. I got nothing else negative to say, but these are maps that they already, like, these maps were already DLC for the first Modern Warfare, or for previous Modern Warfare games.
When you do a remaster, you do like the final edition, including all the DLCs, and you just put it all out at cost. Usually, like 20, usually a percentage down from the original cost.
Right. Exactly. Well, it's the reason people get so mad at Nintendo with the Virtual Console. It's like, man, I am not paying you $12 for Mario 3 in 2017. Get the fuck out of here.
Exactly. It's just...
No. And I feel the same way about this. Oh, I forgot. There actually is a third strike, though, because this is Modern Warfare Remastered, which is still exclusively available when you bundle it with Infinite Warfare.
Which is such an amazing irony, because people would totally buy a remastered Modern Warfare.
What blows my mind is it's like the only way you could even be eligible to get this DLC is if you already spent, what was it, $80,
$80.
$80 on the... So you've spent $80. You might have gotten some DLC or microtransactions already that you've spent on Infinite Warfare itself, and now you're paying another $15 on top of that for DLC for maps that I doubt they even had to do that much development on. Get the fuck out of here.
DLC for maps for a remastered game.
Yeah, which, for the record...
not even standalone.
Well, yeah, exactly, which it's already having issues with player base, and now they're going to release a map pack with a high paywall to split it even further? Why?
It's just...
I'm having flashbacks to Nintendo just not producing the NES Classic anymore, where I'm just like, what? You would make more money if you were intelligent about this. Like, do you not want money? Are you not a business? Like, they would make millions if they would release Modern Warfare Remastered as standalone. If they wait another 6 months, they won't.
You could literally remaster it, sell it for $40.
But I'm not going to buy a remastered game in 2 years or whatever when they finally decide to roll it over when it doesn't look remastered anymore.
Exactly. They could have released that game alongside as a standalone to Infinite Warfare, and they could have literally charged $40 to $50 for that game, and they would have sold out.
Right? I mean, I feel like by the
playing.
I agree.
That is astronomical.
I agree. I feel like by the time we see this as standalone, we'll be paying for Modern Warfare remastered. It's just ridiculous. I mean, for crying out loud.
Tired. Yeah, it's just tiring, and I'm just kind of sitting here like,
when are developers going to learn not to release paid map packs in general? And when are developers going to learn that you cannot charge $15 for DLC in a game that is a full-priced title and includes microtransactions? Fuck you. You don't get DLC and microtransactions, especially if the DLC is like real-ass content, like that's going to split your community. It's just idiotic. It drives me mad.
Yeah, I just don't get it. It's just, you're just looking at money and saying, nah, I'm pretty sure somebody at EA is screaming internally.
You know that this has got to be something that like someone up higher up put their foot down and said this will only be a bundle. Period. No discussion. Because I can't imagine that everyone there is on the same page on that.
That's what I'm thinking.
Just insanity. Anyways, though, speaking of Call of Duty, we have gotten an official announcement. We did not cover this, I don't think, when it leaked, but we now have official confirmation and announcements from Activision saying that the next Call of Duty is going to be set in World War II. That's right. They're taking it all the way back.
They got that memo a little late, huh?
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, I'm okay with it. Anything to get away from the fucking near future bullshit and like space shooter nonsense. I'm so done with like the technological first-person shooter trope that's been going on for the last couple of years.
Exactly.
I never really got into it. Like, it was interesting in like Black Ops, and then they just, I mean, it's been what? Friggin' like 6 or 7 years since then, and they're still
that's the
on
thing.
it.
Like, they kind of drove it into the ground.
I'm exhausted by it. Yeah, exactly. And so I'm looking forward to a good old Garand off, you know?
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, I understand that if the system works, you use it, but at the same time, you have so many like theaters that you could choose from. Like, a sci-fi technological one isn't bad, but don't release like 3 in a row.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Stagger your time periods. Like,
I mean,
World War II.
You know what the word?
Well,
it would have been nice if maybe, since they have rotating teams on this, if they had one team doing old school, one doing new school, and then you could use the same engine. Like, that would have been great.
Yeah,
but then they couldn't have reused all the assets.
Yeah, because you could still have an annual release and still keep the franchise relatively fresh.
Exactly, and it's worth noting, this is not freshness from Call of Duty. For those with a short memory, the last Battlefield game was World War I. So this is really just them jumping on the bandwagon again. Oh, we're doing previous wars again? Okay, well, our top competition just did World War I, so we're going to do World War II before they do. Like, it just feels so like... what are you guys doing over there?
Well, they were telling them early on when they did the launch trailer, but by then it was already too late.
Yeah, well, and
Battlefield just reaped the rewards from that.
It's worth noting, too, I have some real concerns about this game because it's being developed by the team that did Advanced Warfare, which I was not a huge fan of.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Come on, Call of Duty guy, weigh in. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm right. I don't care which, but you're Mr. Call of Duty on this show, so I need to know.
No, your concerns are definitely warranted.
Were you a big fan for Advanced Warfare?
I like the concept of it, but it's not my favorite by far.
Sure. Top 3?
No.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah, it's like at this point.
Is it disturbing that we can say is it in your top 3 Modern Warfare titles?
Yeah, that's
like not even
sad.
your top 3 Call of Duty titles, but your top 3 Call of Duty Modern Warfare titles.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Well, the thing that got me for that game is that that whole series in general is like once you got to Ghost, kind of killed it for me, and then that game was absolute trash. But at the same time, its multiplayer was traditional, which is what a lot of the fan base wanted.
Sure.
So that game was kept alive very much there. And then you moved over to Advanced Warfare. Mind you, this is like right off of Black Ops 2. So people are already getting kind of sick of this whole future thing. And then the fan base is like, yeah, come on, we can bring it back now. We've gotten our fill. Let's bring it back. We've gone full circle. We started off at modern, now we're going to advanced. And then they're like, oh, no, we got to do this one too. They released a trailer. Everybody was like, come on, stop it. But by that time, when they do these releases, the game is probably 75% done. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, for God's sakes, I didn't mention this before, but Call of Duty World War II is coming out like the end of the year. Yeah, November. So
the game is virtually done.
Yeah, exactly. They don't announce them until they're like 6 months from shipping usually.
Yeah, so
really
it's a shame
interesting
that they did that, and they definitely they have been splitting for years, but the problem is that their fan base is tired.
Yeah, exactly. And my thing is like, and they've unmade fans like me, where I loved the early ones, but I just can't stand the new ones. And the thing that I'm most hopeful for, though, is that they'll take a more realistic approach to the war, where I felt like I felt like Battlefield 1 kind of dropped the ball pretty big time there. I was really disappointed by the single-player campaign of Battlefield 1. I'm hopeful that they will do a good job with like a period piece. Like, I'd love it if it was like the Band of Brothers story or something like that.
Yeah, it would be nice if they actually pulled it off. I mean, I'm interested to see if they're going to focus on a theater of war from World War II, or if they're going to kind of jump around. Mm-hmm. I can see them wanting to jump around simply because there's a lot to do, and if they're not planning to, I would say, go forward with like historical shooter for extended period of time, like a couple of years, they're going to want to try to shoehorn as much as they can in one game.
Sure.
And you also have to add the multiplayer facet, which is really where the money is, and EA knows it. They're going to put a lot of time into that multiplayer facet, and then your close second is always going to be the story. So, I
don't know, man. The early Modern Warfare games had pretty fucking awesome single players. Like Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2, I really enjoyed, and even World at War had a good campaign.
Yeah, no, I agree. But World at War had a great campaign.
That flamethrower, though?
That's one of the best, right?
Yeah, but
there.
that flamethrower, though.
Oh, yeah, don't get me started. So I'm just intrigued to see what they're going to do, because like you said, it's the team from Advanced Warfare, which is
definitely, yeah.
They're okay, like they're good at their craft.
Let's just say I'm excited to see more promotional stuff from it, because we haven't seen enough to make a call, but we're both not feeling super confident yet.
It's more like they know their craft, but EA is going to give them serious stipulations, and they follow that. They're good at making games. Like Advanced Warfare is a good game, but it lacks soul.
Yeah, I guess the most basic requirement I have for a game is that it's a good game, and then everything else is like what. Like, I mean, if the game's not good, then I'm not going to get it in the first place. I have a minimum. My minimum expectation is that it's a good game. But sure,
exactly.
I don't want to give them too much credit for being able to develop a working game, basically, because most developers can do that. But yes, you're right. There are.
I don't know, man.
There are definitely talented guys out there. What? Well, yeah, that's actually a really good point, especially since that comes out of EA as well.
Yeah,
so.
I love that game to death, but
you know what? I'm just going to shut up because you just silenced me with that. That's very accurate. Yeah, anyways, though.
Yeah, that's what. Think of it this way. Like, what do you think about what we did for Game of the Year? Not Terraria. The one guy who made that one team game. The one guy. The guy who
Valley?
made that. The one single person that made that agrarian game.
Stardew Valley.
Yeah, Stardew Valley. Look at that game. Like, that game has soul.
Yeah, exactly.
It has character, and even if it is in like 8 or 16 bit in 8-bit graphics, like it is amazing.
It's genuine, and it feels like it was produced by someone who cared about what he was making, not like a boardroom of CEOs looking at, what was the retention during this scene? Like, where were their eyeballs focused?
Exactly, and that's what makes a good game, like a game that's amazing. That's
exactly.
fun.
I want a game to be an artist's vision, not a boardroom's, a check they're waiting to cash.
Yeah, and this is a phase that I think that, that's going to be going through where, like, people understand that video games make a lot of money, and they're trying to squeeze as much money out of it as possible, but they're doing it at the expense of it being an art form.
Precisely. Well,
so,
anyways, yeah, I want to stay positive, so I will say I am excited to see the return to the World War II theater. Here's hoping that they do a good job.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm just also cautious.
Sure. Anyways, though, that is pretty much going to do it for the show this week. I hope you guys enjoyed. As I'm sure you can tell, it's been procedurally generated. If you guys did enjoy listening, please be sure to check us out on Libsyn and iTunes, where you can leave a rating or review. You can also check out the latest episodes on zonecoverage.com, our website, or follow us on Twitter to see the latest releases posted as they come out at PG_show. As I mentioned before, you can also watch the show on YouTube on my channel, lesser.noob, that's N00B, or if you just want to check out some of the games I've been playing. I feature a lot of Hearthstone. I just started an Outlast series, like I said, and I'm just breaking into reviews. This week I put out my first review, and it was for PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, so check that out as well. Anyways, as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and game on.